same-sex marriage. My problem with a lot of people on the right, and I saw a split once again, just like the Trump reaction, between millennials and a lot of their parents and grandparents, was that a lot of the Republicans running for president, a lot of the conservatives within conservative media sounded anti-gay. They sounded like they were upset that gay people could get married. Now, you can be for traditional marriage and not sound like that. My old boss, Rand Paul, didn't sound like he was angry. Jeb Bush, whatever you think about it, at least it sounded conciliatory. And I think that can be done. Julie, you're somebody who's on social media, at Rare Politics, we use social media like everybody else does. I saw that split on Facebook. I saw that split on Twitter. I mean, what did you think about the reaction, whether it's a generational difference or just the reaction in general, to, especially from conservatives or libertarians, to the same-sex marriage decision by the Supreme Court?
Sure, I definitely saw a split. On my personal Facebook page, I have a lot of friends from high school and college who never talk about politics ever. All of a sudden, they were talking about gay marriage. They were changing their profile picture to the rainbow because they wanted people to know, I'm a good person. That's all social media is. It's about signaling to other people, I'm a good person. I care about important issues, like me. That's all it really is. I have no problem with gay marriage personally, but I saw people who were not very interested in politics talk about gay marriage. Personally, I want to get the government out of marriage completely, but I don't have a problem with gay marriage or gay people or anything like that. But I think it's actually a good thing for Republicans that it happened. Because in 2016, gay marriage isn't going to be a key issue. I think, above all, millennials cared about gay marriage the most. Whether they should or they shouldn't, I think that's their issue. And all of a sudden, Hillary Clinton can't tout it on stage that she's going to legalize gay marriage nationwide. If she does, it's not going to have the same effect. Hopefully, Republicans won't continue to talk about it because I think it's hopefully a dead issue.
Yeah, I think it won't take long where people see this issue like being opposed to interracial marriage. It's the cultural development is going to be that quick. Do you have any thoughts on that, Olivia?
I think that there's a less cynical way to look at people who don't normally talk about politics, changing their profile picture to be a rainbow. I think that this is an issue that transcends politics, and I think to most millennials, anyone who doesn't think that people who love each other in consensual relationships you get married is just like a caveman. So for Republicans to strike notes that were different than Rand Paul's or Jeb Bush's that sounded more like they were going to continue to fight it, I think just sounds like something from the Dark Ages.
I think that's how it probably sounded to most millennials. Not all. This is, millennials don't march in lockstep, but it's certainly a problem. Along the same lines, talk about reaching out to new people, maybe different attitudes emerging in the American electorate, certainly the younger you skew. I want to ask you, Orlando, the Republican Party or some prominent Republican leaders are making what I think are valiant and heroic efforts to reach the black community. Conservatives and Republicans for years have said, well, we're going to do minority outreach, and that meant going on Fox News and saying you're going to do minority outreach. That's not minority outreach. You have to go where people are. Right. But, you see people like our old boss, Senator Rand Paul. I think some of the things that Rick Perry has done on the criminal justice reform, I think he said at CPAC 2 years ago it should be a conservative position to shut down prisons. That's very encouraging. That's very different on the right. What have you seen in the way of maybe Republicans making inroads with minorities and African Americans in particular on those issues?
Yeah, well, it's about time. And I think that, and I say that because there's no secret in this room or even out there that the Republican Party hasn't done well with black voters. But what is it that we're going to do about it rather than complain or stick our heads in the sand? So what Reince Priebus has done, that's my boss, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, he's made it a commitment to engage black voters where they live, where they work, where they worship, and where they watch. And that takes an investment in people, in time, and resources. And so I think it's encouraging that more Republican candidates are talking about the issues that matter most to voters. I think any Republican candidate that speaks about the justice issues, that's criminal justice reform, either minimizing mandatory or reforming mandatory minimums, talking about school choice and expanding educational options to families, to low-income families, to give their children a choice. And so basically, it doesn't matter what block you grew up on or what your last name is or how much money your parents have. They should still be able to determine where they send their child to school. So criminal justice reform, educational options, and increasing jobs, growing small business, and not growing government. When you talk about these issues, the ones that matter to people most, you start to see that change. And in 2014, just a little plug, we did increase the black vote to 10%. And it might not be much to write about, but 10% can one day become 12% and 15%, and we can chip away at at the Democrats' stronghold on the black vote, which is important because what I hear on the road, and I just got back from Ohio, I was in Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Columbus last week. Well, I got back yesterday, but people, in the community are telling me, look, the Democrats have taken our vote for granted, and Republicans have completely ignored us. But it's nice to see that you all are here competing for our vote, because when when both parties compete, our community wins. Now, you see that in the Hispanic community.
I was going to ask about that. You're doing outreach. I mean, you have some Republican presidential candidates and Republicans in general who sort of take the Donald Trump line. They sound very hateful towards Latinos. And you have those who want immigration reform. You want those who say we can have border security and not be, we don't have to demean people. I mean, there's a lot of different types of Republicans putting out different
right, and I think you're touching on two things. One is a messaging issue, and the other is a policy issue. And I think that, yes, in terms of messaging, you definitely need to understand the perceptions of certain voters and how they perceive your actions or what you say, or the tone in which how you say it. But I think in terms of policy, I think we can, as a party, expand the map without necessarily changing our policies. But I do think that it takes sharing that message, having advocates on the ground, people who have relationships in the community and credibility to do it. But if we don't do that, if we don't open up our party at the local level, the county GOPs in Iowa or here in Virginia, at the state parties, you pick the place, it doesn't matter. We're not going to see that change.
Well, let me ask you, Benny.